I began a module this week. Well, I didn't actually go to the lecture, but I caught up on the work independently. It's an environmental psychology. Now, when I picked it, because it was an optional module, I was worried it was going to be like heavily tilted towards looking at like climate change issues and ecological problems and all that kind of stuff, which, you know, it has its time and place, but isn't really one of my top interests in life. But fortunately, a lot of it seems to be, well, environmental psychology as a field is about how, well, it's about the interrelationship between our environment, is a very broad term, and our thoughts, feelings, and behavior. And that environment can go from the individual level, like our private spaces, like our homes in our houses, and our families in that house, and can go on a wider and wider scale to our neighborhoods and our towns and our societies and our nations, and etc., etc. But we were told to read an article, environmental psychology article, about first year university students moving from home to university accommodation and all the psychological outcomes associated with that. And the paper itself wasn't really too interesting. It was well written, but it kind of just came out with a lot of common sense principles that you'd imagine. But it had this bit about home, and it's defined home in the best way I've ever heard it before. So it said, the concept of home transcends the material characteristics of domestic space. It is a space that people have made meaningful, situated geographically and socially, imbued with deep feelings and vested with emotion. The very concept of home suggests that it is a key element in the development of people's sense of themselves as belonging to a place. Home is a focal point of one's experiential space, the central reference point of human existence, serving as a unique place of familiar, known and predictable activities, people and physical elements. This importance of home is emphasized through the state of well-being many experience following its presence, vicinity or accessibility, and the state of distress created through its absence, remoteness or inaccessibility. And that's a lot of waffle. But what I gathered from that, the profound bit I gathered from that, was this quote from a paper from the mid-1970s where the guy said that home is the central reference point of human existence. And that made me think, okay, well, maybe it doesn't have to be a physical place. Maybe in the physical realm, our reference point is our childhood home or where we're currently living or whatever, right? The home we own. But is that really the central reference point of your existence? I don't know. Maybe the central reference point of your existence is something psychological or spiritual. Maybe it's a person, right? Maybe it's your significant other. Maybe it's your mother or father. Maybe it's your closest friend. Or maybe it's your own mind or your own heart, your own intuition, or whatever you think of when I say the word soul. Or maybe it's a set of values and principles for who you are and what your life is about, a kind of philosophical textbook that's in your own brain. And I go, well, that definition resonates with me a whole lot more. And it links to something I think I didn't talk about on the podcast, I don't think, but I talked about in a video, the first vlog that's going to be posted, which is in Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. I think it's section 4.3. He talks about the fact that men seek restoration in physical spaces, like going to the countryside or whatever, going to the ocean, to get some respite from the stress and chaos of their life. But he said that the best thing to do is going into yourself, where there'll be a few central and most significant doctrines and philosophies that you can remind yourself of and sort of reorient your mindset and your approach to reality, so that when you go back into whatever distressing or chaotic situation you have to encounter, you come at it with a level of peace and perspective. And I really like that. So for me, I think about, where's my home right now? Well, my childhood home doesn't really feel like my home anymore. It's a place I can go and sleep, and it's a place where my loved ones live. And where I am in London right now isn't really a home. It's somewhere I can sleep and stay, and it's inhabited by people I like and that I get on with really well. But it's not home. For me, home right now is where my heart is. It's my philosophies for life. It's my spirit. It's my mind. And maybe when I have my own family and my own established home is a physical space, I'll feel differently about that. But I just really like playing with these ideas. So what do you think?
It reminds me of Peterson's Clean Your Room. And that when he kind of talks about it, I also take interpretations that the room represents the mind or has links with it. Like, are there dragons in it? Does it need to be tidied? How can you conquer the world without even tidying your room first? I think it could represent some sort of average day, or the forces in the average day. I think you're right with the kind of relationships and your own beliefs on how it's kind of guided. And I also, when you read out that thing from the paper, the quote I also picked up is the central space of human existence. And Yeah, it seems to be a load of ideologies that are formed up from some sort of previous memories that then guides how you approach the day.
Yeah, so we go out into the unknown every day. You might do things that you think are mundane, but you're still leaving a more predictable environment. You're going to the supermarket, or you're going to train at the gym, or you're going to your office where you work, and you'll encounter people there and be confronted with tasks to do and battles to take on and dragons to slay. But home is where you exit to go into the unknown. It's known territory. It's the central reference point. It's the place of security. And my argument is, yes, that's a physical place, but also it can be a mental place as well.
So what would that look like for kind of your restoration and...
Well, it's like I think I've developed a couple of ideas about life that I believe are true on a very deep level. The idea that you don't have to take any of this too seriously, that you can work hard, but you can let go of gripping onto any outcome anyway, because I don't really identify with the ego that is Joel Clifton, this persona, this character that I play out in the world. I believe that what I am is the spirit beneath that, the soul, the awareness. And so if I get too caught up in the distress and the chaos of external human life, I can return back to the reference point of that philosophy, that I am the spirit that possesses this character. And through doing that, to returning home to that set of values and set of principles, I find restoration. Does that make sense?
So it's kind of like a core value, your core values.
Yeah.
You go to a place that adds chaos, and you're able to then return to your core values, which teach you then how to approach it.
Exactly. And there's this quote that we all are aware of that goes, home is where the heart is. And you might think about that as, okay, that means home is where the people you love are, or where the things you love are. Okay, that's a good perspective. But also, maybe your heart is your intuition and your spirit and your soul, right? And home is where that is. What does your intuition guide you to do and think and feel? How would your spiritual self orient you? What does that value? What is your awareness deep within all the material world bullshit? What does that value? That's what home is. Home is where that heart is.